Hey guys, I've got a question for you. How confident are you with your current contract? We all need one if we're getting into interior designing or decorating, or you might call it a letter of agreement. But at the end of the day, the question here is, how confident are you that this is going to cover you in your next project and that it's sound? It's a sound document that helps your clients and you keep on track and feel confident and assured as you move into that next exciting project. Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I feel you really need to have covered in your contract, which I have in mind. So it's a really good topic for conversation and I'm enjoying having you here today. So stick with me. Hey, it's Adam Scougall, guys. Welcome to another episode. It's episode 5 today. I say you want to be an interior designer, and I'm really pleased to have you here. If you're on the podcast of your choice, welcome. Please subscribe over on Apple iTunes if you are listening on the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It would really help me to get my message out there and help more people that are in the same position as you. So this show really is designed for the interior designer, aspiring interior designer or decorator, solopreneur that needs support building their interior design business while they're working 9 to 5. So my aim is to help you guys manage your time and make more money whilst you're able to choose the projects that you want to work on rather than the ones that you don't and the people that you don't want to work with just to pay the bills. So really pleased to have you as I sit here on the show. So before we kick off, though, with talking about the contract, I want to ask you, do you need some help? Are you flailing? And do you need some support in terms of some advice? You can get this advice from me in the area that you're flailing in, and it's okay to fail, by taking my quiz. And the quiz is, so you want to be an interior designer.tv/quiz. It's down below. It only takes about 2.5 minutes. It's 15 questions. So it's pretty quick, and you'll get a personalised report which is emailed to you, and of course you can always email me if you want to have a chat about it after you've done it. So definitely take the quiz. So you want to be an interior designer.tv/quiz. So let's get on with today's topic. I love the talk about the contract or letter of agreement because it's just the most wonderful thing. Don't be scared of it to have working successfully in your business. You know, a contract is a wonderful thing that you can work on. There is some legal type stuff in there that we want to be mindful of, but it is really something that can help support you in just getting on with a great overall understanding of how you run your business. It helps keep you on track. You only have to read your contract back, keep yourself on track about how you work to remind yourself sometimes. We do need reminding, and it also, of course, is a wonderful document that your client should sign off on, to let them know how you work and to sometimes remind them as well where, you know, they need to look back and see what they've signed off on. So I'm going to give you the 5 things that I think are really key. This is actually 5 points that are in my contract that I also located online on a blog. And I thought, gee, these are 5 things that are, you know, they really are the key things that should be in a contract. So I've just, whoever you are, Darren James Interiors, in Queensland. I hope you don't mind. I found these online. They're part of my contract anyway, and they're part of a very effective contract, so I just want to go through them. But thank you for giving me the 5 points to work from. First one is your design process. That should be the first thing. The outline of your design process is really important. So the design process really is telling your clients all about, you know, where this is all going, how this starts, how this ends. It's like a roadmap. So it's also, you know, going to tell them about which phases happen and when. So what happens after the consultation phase, where you go into design? Then after design, you go into, you know, project implementation. So it helps everybody keep on track in terms of how it starts from A to Z. So that is really your design process, and that should absolutely be in the contract. You never want clients that are wondering when you're coming in next or when they're going to receive, you know, the presentation of the stuff that you've already talked about in advance. You want to have that whole process in there. How long does it take you to design their home or their room even? Is it going to take you 2 weeks or is it going to take you 2 months? So all that stuff should be in the contract, and or estimates. It's an estimate. It's going to take me 6 to 8 weeks to complete your design, and at least there's a guideline in there, but it really is a roadmap for your clients and for you. Do you know how many times I've looked back on my contract to remind myself about what it is that I've committed to doing for my clients, or what I should be doing next? It's a great tool for you, and it's a great tool for your clients. So your design process, how you work from the beginning of the project to when you hand over the keys again to the client, if you've taken them away, that should be in your contract. For an example too, in my contract, and we're talking about the design process, I always want my clients non-negotiable, not if you like it, you can do it. It's kind of like, if you agree to work with me, and I'll say this lovingly, you're going to leave the home, because I'm going to be doing a whole lot of stuff for 2 weeks as we move towards the finish. And that could be the finish with any construction, or it could just be the finish with whatever's happened prior to furniture and styling. It could be that I get them out for a week, or they've even been out for a couple of months. Well, a whole lot of stuff happens. Kitchens are renoed, stuff that they shouldn't be sitting there in dust and turmoil over. But definitely at some point, I will ask the clients to leave, even if it's for a very short period of time, so I can do a finished, styled result. And if I don't do that for the client, or if the client was around the whole time while I move things around and fix things that I've found issues and trying to resolve them on the spot, the client would see all of the turmoil, even in the look on my face, when I'm dealing with things that happen, and they do happen, when you're doing the final install. So it's a non-negotiable. The client is to leave. It actually is better off for them. They don't get to see any of the unfun stuff that actually leads to a really beautiful outcome. So if the client said, no, Adam, I want to be here every minute of the day, I'm not leaving my house, I want to stand there and watch you do all this stuff, I think it's fun, I'd say, well, I'm not the designer for you, because I know that it's better for you to leave the property while I style this for you, and I want to give you a really lovely reveal and have it as a moment and give you a lovely gift and, have a glass of champagne with you. But if you're sort of running around behind me while all that happens, I'm not interested. So that should be in the design phase of your process, for example. Number 2 is the scope of work. What is it that you're actually doing for the client? What have you agreed to? This is super important. What can go wrong if you don't have a really clear scope of work is scope creep. And this happens on every job anyway. But what happens is the client gets comfortable with you, and you know that you're doing the bedroom and the living room and the bathroom, whatever. And they'll get so comfortable, loving the process and the whole sort of creative journey, meeting trades, and it's all getting exciting, that they start to say, well, while you're at it, I think you can go and do the laundry room, or I think you should add more art here, or do you think you can now get us a new table and dining chairs for the deck that wasn't part of the original scope? Now, what happens when that happens? Deer in headlights for a second. You've just got all this money from the client, and it's a good thing. They're really getting excited, and they'd really like you to do more. But guess what can happen if you're not careful, and if your scope of work in your contract isn't really clear? Well, then, you can feel like you need to go and just get that extra chair or that extra art. And what happens is you're out of pocket, because you haven't baked it in to all the time you'll need to be able to do all this extra stuff. So putting your scope of work in the contract, which really could just be a line that says, please refer to scope of work, which is a document where you've really diarised everything that you're doing. You're doing the living room, picking new floor, picking paint colours, picking new furniture, new coffee table, whatever. That should all be really specific in there. So when the client says, oh, by the way, can you go and get the outdoor furniture for the deck, which wasn't on the original scope, you can say, oh, no problem, but I'm going to have to go back and rework that and create, a new fee proposal, because, I've got to spend another 5 hours doing the sourcing and ordering and all that, whatever that is. And the client can make a decision. Oh, okay, I understand, Adam, no problem. I think we'll park that, or no problem at all. Send me an invoice, and I'm really excited about everything. Can you add that too? So that's what I mean by scope of work. Have it clear, have it in the contract. And as I said, it might be a line item. You're not necessarily in the body of the contract go to spell out each and everything you're doing for the client in terms of the scope, but you're probably going to have a separate document that your contract will clearly refer to as the scope of work. But really important that you have a scope of work and you're able to keep the client on track with that. Number 3 is your deliverables. So what are you going to deliver? Now, what I mean by that is, what do they get as part of the design phase, for example? So when you're doing a design for a client, you're probably going to have floor plans that show them how the new floor plan is going to work successfully. You may have a mood board or a rendering, which is a computer visualization. It could even be a hand drawing, could be a PowerPoint, whatever it is. But the client should know that they're going to get a mood board for every space that that you're going to design for them. They're also going to get a floor plan. Within your deliverables is the ability for them to make another choice if they don't like something to do with the floor plan that you've given to them, or the selection of furniture. They may have the ability to ask you to give them another selection, say for the L-shaped lounge, if they don't like what you've given them at the presentation. So you're giving them really specific guidelines on where they can continue to ask you to reselect things if it isn't quite what they were looking for. There could be fabrics, they don't like the 2 fabrics that you've shown them for the occasional chair. You've got a floral and a geometric, and although we should have this worked out in our questionnaire in the beginning, so we know if they like florals or geometrics, but they might say, well, I don't like florals or geometrics. I prefer something that's maybe a block of colour rather than all this pattern. So you've got the opportunity within your deliverables and your contract to say, yes, there is scope for me to go and reselect after I've given you my 1 or 2 options in my design phase. So what you're doing is giving them very, very clear deliverables so that nobody can say to you, hey, I thought I was going to get, renderings, a computer-rated image that I can go in on my computer and whiz through as if it's a walkthrough. I thought I was going to get that as part of the design. Well, that wasn't in the deliverables, so that's not something that the client can expect you to really deliver. Now, most of this time, this isn't a problem, but it can definitely be something that could run into a problem if people have worked with, say, other designers, and other designers have worked in a different method to, say, the way that you're working on your project. And that's a very real thing. So have a think about the deliverables, have them all in there, and make sure that you stick with them. Do you know, I made a really silly mistake a while ago. I wish it was longer ago than it actually was, but I did some design work for a friend, and I decided I was just going to get on with it. I charged very nominal sort of fees to do some of the work, and I decided not to take her through the whole process where I went through the contract. So we kind of had this verbal agreement, which I never recommend even working with a friend. So what happens is the client doesn't actually, in that situation, which is really boo-boo to me, but if you've ever sort of done something and not had a letter of agreement with someone because they're a friend and you're just kind of doing this or that, there's no boundaries there, especially if someone's paid you any money, because any money paid to you sometimes is seen as $1 million to the people that have paid you, because they might know the value or the time it takes for you to do what you do. But if you don't have a series of deliverables like I didn't have with this friend of mine, she had no idea how many times I was able to make a choice on a new light for the entry. So she kept saying, no, I don't like it. But look, if you've only got 2 options in your deliverables, otherwise there's further fees, then very quickly people are able to make a decision when it comes to them having to spend more money for new options. If you're doing an hourly rate, great, you can charge them hours and hours of design fees. That normally, the outcome of that is normally people can make a decision a lot quicker. So deliverables is really important. That's 3 in your contract. Must have. You got to have this stuff. 4 is your fee structure. How are you going to charge? It's always good to be transparent with this. Are you going to do a flat fee for design and then a percentage of the install? Or do you do kind of an hourly rate the whole way? When do you bill them? Are you going to bill them on the 5th of the month? Is that, if it's the 5th of the month, it needs to happen on the 5th of the month. Are you going to have detailed line items about everything you've done in relation to all the hours that you've spent? Or are you just going to say, oh, it's 5 hours design time? Well, what can that do? It can kind of open up the dialogue with the client to say, well, what did it take you? I don't understand why it's taken you 5 hours to do this week. There's no sort of information there as to what you've done. It's all that type of thing. This is really important. I think to be transparent with the client's really important as well. So the other thing is, do you offer discounts? Is the client expecting to get your trade discount? Now, if you've got in your contract that the client will never pay more than retail, then you're not telling them that they're getting any sort of trade benefit from your design process or from your design office. It doesn't say in the contract that they get a kickback or they get things at a discounted price. So if it's not in the contract, then it should never be expected and can never be a conversation that is expected to be introduced. Or are you offering, a split, or are you giving them 10% off? Or do you give them 20% off? So if you're going to give them 10 or 20, have the clauses in there as to when they get that. Is it only is it 10% off when it's or 20% off when it's really whatever the situation is, you're getting a really good price on it. But it's good to have sound, specific, sort of tangible processes in terms of your pricing, discounts, whatever, that kind of don't shop and change per project. That could be really dicey. So in my contract now, I've just got that the client doesn't pay any higher than retail, and I'll leave it at that. It's in the contract. I'm not offering design discounts as a way to bolster my value as a decorator. So that is really important. Your fee structure is important. Whatever you're going to do, put it in there and stick to it. That's really key. The last thing, number 5, this is super important, is the legal side of it. So you want your contract to be a handbook that again, I've talked about it kind of being a roadmap. You can call it a handbook, but it's going to be something that's referred to if there's ever any issues that come up in terms of the design phase, or definitely the project implementation stage. Now, this can be quite serious if you're getting into a lot of renovation that is dealing with a building team. I would hope that if you're not a qualified builder, that you're not managing the side of the project that involves somebody who needs a builder's license. You can't call yourself a project manager if you don't have a project manager's license. So, for example, when I'm implementing my side of what I do in my business, I stay away from the build stuff. I give that to a builder. If someone's going to design a kitchen, then it's either, put the kitchen together, it's either a kitchen company or it's a cabinet maker joiner that's normally coming in with a builder, I find, as part of a larger process. But I leave all that with the builder if it's to do with building. You check that they have their insurances, and you obviously check that they're legitimate in terms of what they need to cover in terms of their qualifications. But you don't want to be managing anything that you're not qualified for. For example, decoration, for the most part, I call that project implementation. I'm implementing the project. I am not a project manager. I haven't gone and gotten some sort of certificate or degree or whatever it is, diploma in project management. So I'm not calling myself that. I'm implementing the project, which for me is a lot of the decorating and the furnishing side of things. I get out of the way when it comes to trades that are specialised. Electricians, builders, any renovation stuff. I do not try and say that I am qualified to do that, nor accept responsibility for that. So that stuff's really important, that's in your contract. The other thing is you're not responsible. If you're knocking out walls or doing different things with the ceiling or a bathroom renovation, and when you're in that situation where everything's getting ripped out, someone discovers there's a problem behind the wall, and it could be anything, who knows what it is. But what the flow and effect from a problem that's sort of behind the build, and anything can happen, is that you can't be liable for extra costs. And this normally means there's going to be extra costs to try and solve the problem that's been uncovered when parts of the foundation have been pulled away. So in your contract, you're just going to have a very simple kind of explanation that you are not liable for any unforeseen problems to do with the way wiring has been installed or a house has been built or whatever's sort of sitting there behind the walls, for example. You must have stuff like that in the contract because who knows what could happen. I'm sure that most of the time people will understand, but you never want to have a contract that relies on people's kind of just getting it. If there's a problem and they have to fork out lots more money, they may say, well, you know, Adam, Marie, John, whatever, that's up to you. That's your problem. You didn't say in the contract, you said it would cost this much money. Well, they might say to the builder, you said it costs this much money and you're now charging me another $10,000. It wasn't in your contract, so I'm not paying it. It's up to you to fix it and pay for it. Wouldn't that be a nightmare? These things can happen. Cover yourself in the contract that you're not liable for unforeseen issues that have got to do with the foundation of the way a home is built, for example. So they're pretty much the 5. The action steps I'd like you to take is to have a think about what you have in your letter of agreement. I hope you've got one. If you don't, look for one. You can find them online. You can tweak them. You can rebrand them. But really the 5 key things that I've mentioned today are really important. So I'd like you to play this back and just see if you have all of that covered in your contract. And yeah, let me know how you go with that. So action steps for you is have a look at your current letter of agreement or contract and see if you've got all 5 of those areas covered and you're on the right track. You have the foundations of the 5 most important things in any contract and you'll be moving into your next full year with confidence. So if you don't have that sorted, start to make it happen. It's really important. So finally, to finish off for this episode, I'd like you to jump on. If you're floundering, if you want to sort of get an analysis of where things are working out well for you and where you need some help, I'll give you some advice. After you fill in my quiz, say you want to be an interior designer.tv/quiz. It takes about 2.5 minutes. It's 15 questions and you'll get a personalised report emailed to you, which I hope you find useful. So I hope you found the content of this really helpful. If you're on YouTube, leave me some comments. What would you like to hear about? Tell me if you like the content. Does it resonate with you? Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. It really helps me to get the message out there and get this stuff out there to make sure people can benefit from it, that are in the situation where they need some learning. And if you're on the podcast, you're listening, you could be on your headphones, in the car, whatever. I'm really pleased to have you with me, by the way. Leave me a review if you haven't done so already on Apple Podcasts. It would really help the podcast get some more traction. So I have loved having you today. I believe in you. I think if you're here, you're on the right track. You've got the talent. Stay strong. Get all these things sorted. Get your contract sound. You'll feel so much better. Having a great contract is really it makes me feel like I'm Superman, because I know with my contract I can read through anything and explain it rationally and why it actually helps the client. And it's designed to be there in support of the client and in support of me as well, and how it's there to support everybody. I love having my contract. It's a great one that I've curated and works well. Make sure these 5 things are in yours. And until next week, bye for now, and I love and leave you. See you next time. Ciao.